Good morning, everyone. It's March 24th, 2023. We're going to call to order the Audit and Finance Committee meetings for the Troy IDA and the Troy CRC. We're going to do these in conjunction. We have all board members present except for Jim Gully. We're going to start with the Troy IDA Agenda Item 1, the approval of the minutes from October 28th, 2022. We have a motion to approve. Or any discussion about the minutes, any questions before we move to started?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? We have one absent. Jim. Great. We're going to go and switch over to the Troy CRC. Agenda Item 1, approval of the minutes from October 28th. Any discussion, comments, questions? Motion to approve the minutes from October 28th.
So moved.
Second? Josh? All in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Abstentions? One. Okay, there's going to be some switching between from Chris, I imagine, but Chris Stevens is here from Majeski to cover agenda items 2, the 2022 audit presentation. The floor is yours.
All right, good morning, everyone. You should have two deliverables for each organization. You should have one that's called the report to the board, and then one that's called financial statement, supplementary information, and then an auditor's report. We'll go over the report to the board first. I'm going to go through this once, because it's really both, for both organizations, it's really very similar. I'll highlight as I go through it the difference between the two, but that way I don't have to go through it twice, and you can listen to it twice. So we'll start with the report to the board. I'm just going to go through it for the IDA.
I don't think we have the IDA.
Yeah.
I only have the CRC.
Yeah, only have
the CRC report to the board. I agree with you.
The same, that was it.
No.
Okay, I can go through the CRC.
Okay.
All right. You don't have the financial statements either for the IDA?
I think we have.
We don't have financials for IDA either. I don't see it.
I have financial for CRC, and then we have the report from CRC. So we don't have financial.
Yeah, we don't have your audit report for the.
So you got a separate CRC one that Danae handed out because that was changed, and in your package there ought to be at least the IDA audit, but I don't know if you were.
Yeah, in the audit and finance agenda, there's all of the audit reports and 30 staples all together.
Oh.
The CRC one I did have to hand
Oh,
out, so-
this, okay.
Okay, independent audit report.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's like this. So it's going to be in the
Audit Finance Committee.
IDA March 24th.
Right? Yeah. The CRC was, enough of you guys in the back of the IDA. If you go to, it should be right.
Oh, this is the one that's no good.
I got a pile for garbage here if people want to hand me garbage. I feel like your CRC report in the package audit is garbage.
This one is going to be in this one, the IDA. So if you flip one page, it's going to be right there.
Oh.
There you go. And then I think
Sorry.
that's the report to the board, and then the financial positions, and then following that. Yeah.
And if they do say draft on them,
Yeah, right.
that's the confusing thing.
Thank you.
Okay, so the report to the board. I'll start where it says significant audit matters. Qualitative aspects of accounting practices. Pardon me. Management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. Accounting policies of the organization are described in Note A to the financial statements. As described in Note A to the financial statements, the agency did adopt a couple new accounting standards in the current year. That was GASB 87 for leases and GASB 91 for conduit debt obligations. The CRC only adopted the one for the conduit debt obligations. They don't have any leasing activities, so for some reason that is in that particular engagement. So So starting with ASB 87 leases, this standard was adopted on a retrospective basis at the beginning of the earliest year presented. The adoption did not result in any reclassifications or restatements of changes in net position or net position. For the IDA, the only item that was potentially subject to the lease standard was the contract for the 701 River Street. The land did include lease payments, however, that particular contract actually transferred title of the property, and it therefore didn't fall under the lease guidance. So really, there was no really impact for the adoption of the lease guidance on the IDA in the current year. GASB 91 related to conduit debt obligations. This standard also was adopted retrospectively. It did not impact, change the net position or changes in net position for the prior year either. So there's no real impact on the financial statements for these two adoptions. It was significant kind of policies that were set to be adopted in the current fiscal year. Accounting estimates, all financial estimates do include accounting estimates, and we did highlight some of the significant accounting estimates related to the IDA here. The IDA, the most significant estimate is the estimate for the land held for development, which is based on the exercise price of the land purchase option and the appraisal prepared by a third-party appraiser. Part of that land was sold in the fiscal year. CRC itself did not have any significant estimates and built into it. It's relatively simple, so there wasn't anything in there to disclose. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit and disagreements with management, I'll highlight these together. We did not have any significant difficulties in performing our audit or disagreements with management related to accounting or auditing matters. Had we run into one of those situations, we probably would have reached out to you before this time frame. Corrected on uncorrected misstatements. We are required under professional standards to accumulate all known and likely misstatements during the audit and communicate those to management, for which we've done. We do also disclose to you here the material misstatements that were determined as part of our audit. The IDA had one adjustment related to the gain on the sale of land, how the cost basis is allocated between the two pieces of parcels of land. That was updated, which created an adjustment to the overall gain. The CRC, there were no misstatements related to those amounts identified. Management's consultation with other independent accountants. If management reaches out to another accounting firm, they are required under professional standards to contact us to ensure they have all the pertinent information, and we're required to let you know that that happened. We're not aware of any consultation with other third-party accountants during the year to report. Down to page 3, some other information. Generally accepted under GASB's financial reporting requirements, the section that should be included in the financial statements is not management's discussion analysis. It's not uncommon for an organization the size of the IDA or the CRC to not include that. It's generally more important for your larger governments. If there was one included here, we would not audit it anyway, so the fact that it's not included does not change our audit opinion in any way. We also engaged to report on the schedule of indebtedness, which is attached to both these organizations. That's information that's required under New York State law for the IDA and the CRC. We did subject that stuff to our audit procedures, and we will issue an audit opinion related to those schedules. And also, we were not engaged to report on the agency's annual report that's required under the New York State Public Authority laws. However, under professional standards, we are required to review it to ensure that it's materially consistent with the information, either the financial statements themselves or information that we gathered as part of our audit. If we become aware of the material inconsistency, we will first request management to fix it. If they didn't do it, we'd have to update this report and communicate that in this report. At this point, we're not aware of anything that should be reported related to your annual report. So those are the reports of the board. Are there any questions? If not, we'll move on to the financial statements. I will do the IDA first. CRC relatively simple. We can get through that pretty quickly. Go to page 1 of the financial statements. This is our auditor's opinion. This is what we we're issuing what's called an unmodified or clean opinion. This is essentially the highest level of assurance you can get under an audit. That's stated in paragraph 2, where it says, in our opinion, the company's financial statements referred to above present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the authority as of December 31st, 2022 and 2021, and the changes in its financial position and cash flows for the years then ended in accordance with general accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. The basis for our opinion, we did perform our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards, as well as those standards included in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. And we believe our audit provides us a reasonable basis for our opinion. We did highlight an emphasis of the matter. We added an emphasis of matter paragraph here. We're including these in all our reports for stuff related to the adoption of CASB 87. It is a significant new accounting standard, so we do want to point the user's attention to that in the financial statements. This does not impact our opinion in any way, shape, or form. Responsibilities of management. Management is responsible for the financial statements. We are responsible for auditing those financial statements. If you go to page 2, our responsibilities for auditors. There's significant information in here. I'll let you read it if you feel the need. But ultimately, our responsibility is to plan and perform our audit in accordance with professional standards that allows us to express on a reasonable basis, a reasonable opinion of the year financial statements are free from material misstatement, whether from error or fraud. Down to the bottom, required supplementary information. Again, we're just referring to the management's discussion analysis that isn't included in the financial statements, and just highlights the fact that our opinion is not modified with respect to that matter. Supplementary information. We did perform audit procedures on the supplementary information attached to both the CRC and the IDA, and we do believe that information is fairly stated in all material respects in relationship to the financial statements taken as a whole. Other information refers to your annual report, the fact that if we became aware of any material misstatement, inconsistency in the annual report and the financial statements or information we get as part of our audit, we'd have to report that here. At this point, we've read most of the drafts, and we're not aware of any modification that would need to be made to the report related to the other information. The last paragraph refers to a report we're required to issue under government auditing standards, and I will address that when I get to it at the end of the presentation. Starting on page 4, this is your statement of net position. Or the balance sheet organization does show all the assets of the organization, all the liabilities, and the net difference from those two, which is the equity or net position for a governmental agency. Year over year, the biggest change that probably stands out is your cash position is up significantly compared to the prior year. That's related to the Lion Factory project that closed, as well as the sale of the land at 701 River Street. Land held for use and development went down. That's by the cost basis of land that was sold in the current year. And of course, your land purchase option has been taken off the balance sheet because they exercised the option and the land was sold. Next page, page 5, is your statement of revenues, expenses, and change in that position. It shows the revenues of the organization, operating expenses, non-operating income, total change in that position, or essentially what your net income of the organization is for the year. You can see obviously in the operating revenues, you saw a significant increase in administration fees related to the Lion Factory project that was closed in the current year. Expenses year over year were up just a little bit. You did have some increase in professional fees in the current year, different projects that were going on. But you did it up. But in the end, you provided operating income of about $230,000. Non-operating income includes the gain on sale of the property 701 River Street, which leads to a net change in position of increase of $518,000 for the year.
I'll just add on that note, unrelated to the audit, so we retain the portion of that property that's on the river, that has a trail on it, that I'm going to now go to the city to take it from us, to get it off of our books. So
that amount is what is in land held for development on your balance sheet for $80,000.
Right. $80,000 is going to disappear because the city's not going to pay us for it. My guess.
You think?
Have they told you they're not going to pay for it?
I just know they're not going to pay. I'm gonna probably try and swap them for a different piece of land, is what I'm gonna do.
Okay, so page 6. This is a statement of cash flow, so this provides information related to your, sources and uses of cash in the current year. So you can see you received $468,000 in proceeds from administration fees in the current year, which provided positive cash flow from operating activities of $227,000. You received another $375,000 from the sale of land. Some of that was actually in other revenue as well. So overall, you generated a net increase in cash of $605,000 for the year, to bring your net total cash up to $736,000 at the end of 2022. Starting at page 7, page 10 is note 8 of the financial statement. This includes all of the common policies of the organization, with the exception of adoption of GASB 87 and GASB 91. These are consistent with the prior year, and they are considered to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Highlight on page 11, there's a couple notes here that were significant in the current year. Note C, land held for development. Obviously, you sold one of the pieces of land in the current year at a cost basis of $207,000, which leaves $80,000 remaining. And the land purchase option, which was exercised in the current year, a sale of that land to 701 River Street. And then on page 12, note F provides some information related to transactions with related organizations, specifically the city of Troy, that you do pay annually $100,000 for staffing and use of facilities. The Troy CRC shares the same board as the IDA, and the Troy Local Development Corporation, the IDA does have an agreement with the LDC where it shares portions of its project fees when the LDC is involved in one of the projects. So that is disclosed there as well. I'll start on page 13. This is what we call, this is our report that we issue under government auditing standards. It reports on a couple different items related to the audit. First of all, it reports on our consideration of your internal control over financial reporting. We're required under professional standards to consider your internal control to the extent that allows us to plan and perform our audit. Our testing isn't, we don't do enough testing that allows us to report or issue an opinion on the effectiveness of internal controls. However, during that process, if we become aware of deficiencies in internal controls that we consider either material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, we are required to report that here. We're happy to report we did not identify any deficiencies in internal control that are reportable under government auditing standards. We also consider the organization's compliance with laws and regulations that could have a direct and material impact on the financial statements and report any non-compliance related to those matters. In this report, we're happy to report we did not identify any non-compliance with laws and regulations that could have a direct and material impact on the financial statements. And then moving on to page 15, this is some supplementary information that's included as part of, it's hard to read, I know, a lot of information there. This is a summary of the information related to the project which is included in your Paris report. The IDA law, we're supposed to provide audit support for this, so we do audit it as a supplemental schedule. And it lists out the individual projects as well as the lease amount, the total tax exemptions, pilots payments received, as well as the job numbers that are created as part of those projects that they report to you on an annual basis.
So these don't have to be included in the new GASB lease?
No, because these are not, you're not really, it's a lease. It's essentially you hold a claim to the title of the property so they can continue to receive the tax exemptions. You don't really own the property, it's not leased, you're not leasing them or receiving anything back for it, so.
Good.
Any questions on the IDA financial statements?
I got a question about the deposits, especially what's going on with all the banking system. They're fully covered?
Yes, under New York state law, all governments are required to have collateral to back up any amounts you have in excess of FDIC insurance limits, and we do test that as part of our audit, and the IDA and CRC had either had adequate FDIC coverage or collateral above that to cover the deposits. I think that actually says that in the note D.
I just wanted to,
Yeah.
470.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
in.
it authorized unsecured deposits collateralized by accounts held by a pending, subject to financial institution agent and authority's name.
What page is that on?
That's, bottom of page 8? No. 10.
Said it's required by New York State law for them to collateral, really? That I didn't know.
All
Okay.
governments, all school districts. Yeah.
Really? Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, then, if there are no other questions, we can move on to the CRC statements. I'll go through these relatively quickly. They're pretty straightforward. We'll start on page 1 of the financial statements. I won't go through the report in detail like I did with the IDA, but I'll highlight on the top of page 1. Similar to the IDA, we are issuing what's called an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements. We believe the financial statements are presented and reported appropriately in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. I can go in detail about this, but otherwise everything else is the same as the IDA. We can go to page 4 of the financial statements. This is the statement of net position, or the balance sheet line position. You can see, obviously, it's much simpler than the IDA. You have some cash. You've got an amount due from other governments, and that is related to a line of working capital loan that was provided to the LDC during the current year. It's not interest bearing, so that is due back from the LDC. No liabilities, so your net position at the end of the year was just under $440,000. Page 5 is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in that position. You had project fees of about $15,000 in the current year. Total operating expenses just under $83,000. So you did have an operating loss of $67,000 for the fiscal year. A little bit of interest income provided. An overall net income or change in net position of just over net loss or negative change in that position of just over $67,000. Page 6 is statement of cash flow. This provides information related to the sources and uses of cash from the organization. So you see proceeds from project fees of about $15,000, payments to vendors just over $86,000, and net cash used in operating activities of $72,000. You also use some cash in investing activities related to the loan to the LDC, which saw a negative cash flow from investment activities of $214,000, so an overall decrease in cash of $286,000 during the year. So we're bringing your cash down for the end of the year to $224,992. Starting at page 7 to page 9 are the accounting policies of the organization, similar to the IDA, with the exception of adoption of GASB 91, which really did not impact the organization in any way. These accounting policies are consistent with the prior year and are considered to be in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. No BETA financial statements provide some information of the cash equivalents. Again, here we were telling you that their cash is collateralized. However, they were fully covered by FDIC insurance at the end of the year. Note C of the financial statements is provide information related to the related party transactions. The city provides some staff support without compensation. The CRC does share the board with the IDA, but you did have some transactions with the LDC in the current year that are disclosed here. Prior year, you gave them a grant of $30,000. And of course, on the last page, on page 10, gives some information related to the loan issued to the LDC during the current year. Starting at page 11 and page 12 is our Yellow Book report, related to our report on internal control of financial reporting. As I said before, we don't issue an opinion on your internal control or financial reporting, but we also did not identify any control deficiencies that are reportable under government auditing standards. On the report on compliance and other matters, we did not identify any non-compliance for the organization that was material of financial statements and would be reportable under government auditing standards. And the last report here, last page here is page 13. This is the supplementary information, the schedule of indebtedness that's required to the kind of a debt issuances you have issued in the past. And this really provides information related to the outstanding balance at the end of the year. Last year's outstanding balance, current year activity, and the outstanding balance at the end of this fiscal year. And we did audit the schedule, and we do believe it's fairly stated in all materials, facts, in relation to financial statements taken as a whole. So that's it, quickly. CRC, any questions?
We have questions for you, Chris, regarding the loan with the LDC. What kind of payment terms? I mean, the organizations work closely together, so it's not really a monthly payment, is it more like when there's a project?
They pledge proceeds from sales of 2 pieces of land, one being the Alamo site and the other being the Kingsville site. So when those sales close, absence of any further negotiations related to the Alamo site, those proceeds will be paid back from those proceeds.
Got it.
It's not interest bearing, so it's not accruing interest or anything like that.
I'm going to start with the IDA. Is there any further discussion, questions, comments before we go through the audit presentation regarding the IDA? Okay, so we have a motion to approve the 2022 audit presentation for IDA.
So moved.
Sue, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope. Abstention? No. And Jim is absent. Okay. And we're going to do the same thing for the Troy CRC audit presentation. Any discussion, comments, questions? Further? Do we have a motion for the 2022 audit presentation? Second? Sue? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? No. Abstention? No. And Jen is just absent. Okay. I'm gonna call for, if there's any other discussion on this, I'm gonna call for adjournment, motion for adjournment of both the Troy IDA and CRC on Finance Committee meetings. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Sue, second? Josh?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposed, no abstentions, just Jim. Great. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
The draft, the updated CRC, is there any
No, so the reference to the schedule.
Okay.
We need a bigger binder clip.
Okay.
That was all, last night, I was trying to rush.
Got another package if you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's March 24th, 2023, calling to order the Board of Directors meeting for the Troy IDA. We're going to start with agenda item 1, the approval of the minutes from November 18th, board meeting. Any discussions, questions, comments? Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'm gonna abstain, motion, I can make a motion.
So moved.
Sue, second? Sue? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No, abstain? Stephanie, and, just Jim now. Okay. We're gonna go to agenda item number 2, the annual meeting resolutions.
Right, so the annual meeting resolutions, we're gonna find our packet, or in my package at least. So this is the annual meeting resolution. We do this each year, and I'm gonna walk through slowly, I'm gonna walk through fastly, starting on page 2, because page 1's a bunch of whereases. Page 1. Now therefore, pursuant bottom of page 1, we've reviewed the mission statement, performance measures, and authority hereby, no changes are required. Moving to page 2, we've reviewed, so these are basically reviewing required policies and procedures that we have in place, and then we've reviewed the audit to section 3, and this accepts the audit which was approved by the Finance Committee. The annual election of officers, slate would remain the same with Jeff as chair, Jim Gully, who's absent on vacation to Florida, as vice chair, Albert Watson as treasurer, and Sue Farrell as secretary. And that you'll participate in required annual training. There's no annual training, it's one-time training. It says that. Anyways, Audit and Finance Committee is the committee of the whole. Section 6 Governance Committee is, consists of Albert, Susan, and Stephanie. Next, page 3, appointment of staff. And let me just make sure I'm doing the IDA, yes. Okay, so these are the 4 employees that the $100,000 compensation goes to the city for each year. Let's see, section 8, we're approving the annual report. You have an annual report. This is the large chunk for the IDA that's in your package, and it's tough because we're approving this, and it's just like really being completed this week as we get the information back from all of the businesses that we have issued pilots to in the past, verifying their employment and where they are, and that's something we end up reviewing now after this to look at, see who's complied and who's not with their employment projections, but this is what's reported. And I believe, did we get everything today, or are we missing still from cooking?
I didn't enter cooking factories in, because I had printed that already.
Okay, but we have the numbers now?
And my factory was waiting for the number of jobs that they received. That's it. After we got this one.
Okay. So this basically talks about the fact that we have our policies and procedures in place, that we have non-compensated board members, let's see, what else going, the listing of the board members, that we have, well, I already put that, policies and procedures in place, talks about each board member, who they are, that they're not compensated.
Are these,
Yep.
term expiration dates?
They
Looks like
should-
most of them have expired this year sometime.
Yeah, we lose a lot.
January
Yeah.
April.
Well, mine's next month.
Yeah, mine too. I didn't have updated letters, so I just put it till the end of the year. I can wait.
Yeah, I get nagged on that every year by the administration about making the changes and the replacements or updating appointments. So let me know if you don't want to be reappointed, but that'll come out.
I just noticed it, like,
Yep.
because mine's next month, the beginning of next
And you
month.
continue to serve. You continue to serve until replaced or reappointed. We have lapses. Or we have lapses. We don't have
I
lapses.
was just
We have
looking at it
gaps
this
where
morning,
people
I was like,
have to
okay, am I getting kicked off next month?
Wishful thinking.
President Street, what is this? And I'm sorry, real property, it talks about our property list, and we really only have that one property still called President Street, even though it's on President Street. It used to before we split it. Let's see, and then we go through the project information, and this is where we have from page 19 through page X, all of the pilots that are out there, all the businesses, and how they've done with their job reporting. So this is all data compiled by Danae, and then it'll be reviewed by me, and if I see major issues with it, then we'll call the subcommittee like we did a couple of years ago to talk to, because we terminated a pilot at one point with First Columbia. We don't usually terminate the pilot with United Mussolini groups for City Station, because it was job growth based on the retail that they're having a tough time filling, basically. So,
Do you keep detailed files on all these projects?
Yeah.
You do?
If you want to see anything further on all that, but
So Steve, you've reviewed all this in here?
no, I haven't.
You haven't yet, okay.
I trust Danae that it's all what she's gathered,
Gotcha.
and that's all we're reporting is that we have
That you've
gathered the
gathered the
information.
info.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then we're
Gotcha.
gonna go through and review it and see
Okay.
where there's issues,
All right,
basically.
perfect.
Yeah, 'cause it's still coming in. And then,
Do these get audited, or you just,
this goes to, they do get reviewed by, I think, Chris looks at them to see if there's any major discrepancies. New York State Authority Budget Office then reviews them and comes back and has questions, and we've gotten better at making sure everything's good with them. So, yeah, we do go through it
okay.
in detail once we have everything in, but it's always like we're getting it in right as the board meeting,
Yeah.
where we need to approve it on March 31st, by March 31st. So it's already in the system and ready to hit send as soon as the board approves it. I know it's difficult, this one's difficult, especially the IDA, because, there's a lot of information
Yeah,
in there.
there's a lot,
The
yeah,
CRC,
there's a lot
not.
here, yeah.
Yeah.
You go through them.
And then, I think it just jumps to, we have the investment information, and then just who our vendors are. And they're mostly BS&T for monthly accounting, CHA for consulting services, City of Troy, Terrace Beach, and, BS&T, and then BS&T for, Troy, we're missing one, aren't we?
It's anything over 5,000, so if somebody was under 5,000, they don't have to.
But we don't have Wojcicki on here.
No, it is. It's on page 4.
Oh, my page 4 is jumped. Okay,
So,
my page 4 must be the last page. So that's the report. There's my page 4, Labella and Wojcicki, okay. And then jumping back to the annual resolution, unless anybody has questions or wants to review, so mostly what we're putting in there, Albert, is the employment numbers in the 30 pages. Most of the rest of that stands from year to year. Let's see.
How do they, like, with them, with reporting the employment, is that covered with, they just volunteer that information? How do we get
I wish
that?
they just volunteered it. They're required to report it to us as part of their pilot agreement, and then we chase them down until they volunteer it.
Yeah. How do you confirm the number of employees?
We don't really, we take them at their word for what they're giving us.
They have to provide backup now. There's
W-2s
payroll
and stuff?
forms, like a
Yeah.
payroll report or a New York 45 form.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's good.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we really cracked down on getting that.
Yeah, it's interesting that always seems to come up as a question for developers when there's like anything public or when they're presenting. They always go on how many jobs are created, and like, well, most of these, the number of jobs they're reporting is over what they predicted. It seems difficult to do that with an apartment building.
If they have if there's a tenant in there, like a business, then we count those people also. So that helps some of them, but,
That makes sense.
yeah.
And that was one of the things that Albert and I were working on King's Landing
Right.
too with, was they're saying how many jobs they're creating. We're like, well, wait a sec, because you got this building right next door, are you sharing these positions or what? Don't be saying something
Yeah.
to us to get a bigger pilot that you're not gonna be able to verify in the end.
And like Hendrick Hudson's got 100 employees listed in there.
Well, they have on that one building that lots of.
And that's what I
floors.
wasn't sure, yeah, I was,
Yeah.
obviously with the businesses, that makes sense, I wasn't thinking of that.
Yeah.
and I had a question on the DeFazio, so it said they had delays due to COVID. But again, you know, with the number going from 4 to 33, jobs.
That's the original estimate, right? And they're not up and operating yet.
Yeah.
So do we?
Can I email him about that? Because I also not sure We were talking about the current restaurant, maybe if they counted those employees or not. They did report construction tax, but then they also said they had employees, which I don't think is accurate.
Yeah, that's what, I was confused. If they're not doing anything, then what does this number actually reflect?
Right, like my thought on that, I saw that same thing, and I was thinking, is it the people constructing it this year, and then it'll change next year,
Should be.
But it says 10 during construction.
Yeah.
What page is that on? I'm just curious. I'm just gonna mark it.
51.
Definitely entered that one as it was when it came in, but I think when the final goes out, I'll note it.
Anything else? So again, that's, so we'll report the numbers. Did we take any action against the Fazios? No, they're not open yet. They're just, they're opening this string.
So if he moves, well, he's moving the pizza shop from one place, moving the pizza shop and then adding new, is that included in this number?
That
Or?
would be retained. Yeah, that would be retained, it wouldn't be the
Seems like he's got like
number
half that in that little shop now.
Yeah, that would be number of FTEs before IDA status is what that would be.
Oh.
So, yeah. At their old non-IDA location.
So they're adding 6, according to this, maybe. We'll find out.
The employment, that's the change due to construction jobs, I would say it's 6.
He's got more than 4 people.
Like
working in
28,
it. I know.
then 28 if once he gets operating, right?
It says the number of FTEs before IDA status 4.
Yeah, and then after.
He's got more than 4 people working.
Yeah. Oh, so Danae, what's that? Have you reached back out to them, Danae, on that one?
Sorry, the air conditioning now is loud.
Have you reached back out? What's up with the Fazios? You're getting...
I entered the numbers in based on what they had returned, but I did make a email back to them to question it, and they didn't provide the backup, so I also need that, which sometimes they correct what they send in because they don't realize they were not giving the right numbers. I think he's counting current Syria employees when he's not supposed to be. It's only for the new project, right?
Right.
I'll give you guys the update on that.
So we're only voting to approve this reporting, but if we have any, like if we wanted to, this is gonna be posted on the site too, so if anybody, including board members, wants to dive into this and scrutinize this, we could ask for like more details in the files and figure that out. Like, we're not essentially approving anything other than their reporting on
That
it.
they're reporting on it, right?
Yeah. Just to clarify that I'm curious about knowing more about that.
Okay. So we're approving that report, although we still have to make some amendments to it, or for Fazios. Let's see, the budget was adopted already in October, so basically, for the fiscal year ending 2023, we're approving that. And that we are authorized and directed to do things required to execute and deliver all such checks, et cetera, and that the resolution takes effect immediately. So that's the annual resolution in a nutshell.
Before going to adoption, are any questions, comments further? Okay, do we have a motion to adopt the foregoing resolution?
Motion.
Soup, second? Soup? And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? And just Jim absent. Got it. to agenda item 3, the IDA, the executive director's report. Four.
Yes, okay, so, I'm extending or re-upping our annual membership to the NYGO, New York GEO, which is $960, and they're a trade group within the state. We go to a lot of their meetings dealing with geothermal, the geothermal project that we're working on. Cookie Factory is severely in default on their pilot payments to us right now, so Justin has sent out a notice to them. They basically were trying to sell the business. They did a lot of investment in it. The deal fell through, and they're behind. It's not an obligation of the IDA, but we are working with them to try and get that current. They are saying it will, and I mean, it's basically collateralized. You know, it's like a tax. So the city, whatever the agencies, will end up either foreclosing if that has to be the issue, but hopefully that will get resolved prior to anything happening. They're in year 8 of a 10-year pilot, or year 9, is it 9 or 8? I think we had to send notice that this is the only pilot we have that's expiring in 2 years, and we're required to notice now the tax jurisdiction when a pilot is coming to its end. So this is coming to its end. They are behind. They did not make their November payment, and they did not make their February payment. So we've been in discussion and sent them a notice. Let's see. I'm going to sponsor another Future of Small Cities event for $2,500 because they're also helping us do the rollout of the geothermal when that occurs, and it also sponsors us in a movie. I don't know if anybody's been to the Focus Labs on 3rd Street. It's a great facility, a lot of great events there, and so I want to continue to support them. I mentioned before that I'm looking to do the sale now of the President Street property to the city, or the transfer. And I believe that's it for Executive Director's report.
We sponsored an event there before.
We have. We helped actually, we did a $500 sponsorship previously, and we helped with funding when they did their first fit-up. Basically, that was more. I can't remember how much that was, but that was more in the range of $5,000. It was probably last year, early last year. See if I can get you guys T-shirts, okay?
Yeah.
Got him.
Got him.
There's a nice school of architecture exhibit there right now, too.
Yeah.
I don't know how, it's been there for a while, but it'll be there for a little while longer, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they have interviews with me and with Steve Riddler from the Farmers Market, and Reef, whose program it is. Okay.
On to agenda item number 4, financials. More is yours.
All right, so first report today on financial position. As of February 28th, we had total assets of $2,240,180, with $1,799,137 in cash. At $1,445,727 in liabilities, left us with a fund balance of $794,454. This significant change in statement of financial position is reflected in the restricted cash and accounts payable, which our pilot collected at the end of February and not remitted until is the statement of activity. For the month of February, we had a deficit of $75,479. The statement source of revenue are the annual admin fees for pilots. Largest expense were the architectural and engineering fees, which are related to the ferry warehouse project.
Hey, Steve, I got a question about the, you're talking about the cookie factory?
Yeah.
How does the, foreclosure work?
Well,
If they got like a financial loan against is it against the property?
it's against the property, so if they're not getting the taxes, the city, I'll have to find out the logistics of exactly how that happens, and it's usually after a year I mean, so they're not even close to the period where it starts, the foreclosure commences. It's
Okay.
usually after, there's a year where you don't pay, and then there's a year of a lien. So I think it's a 2-year process before the foreclosure actually starts.
It's way down the road.
And hopefully that'll,
But does that supersede a financial? Like, if they got a loan against the property, is your,
I believe the taxes are first.
oh,
Yes.
okay.
So that's why often the banks will pay it.
Oh,
They need
before
to.
they, yeah. 'cause-
Before they
okay,
allow it to
yeah,
be foreclosed.
Yeah,
They'll sell it before that.
yeah.
Nope, that's all for financials. On to agenda, do we have a motion to specify, are there any questions, comments besides that? We have a motion to adopt the financials. 2, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, and 1 absent. Great. On to new business.
Okay, Riverwalk Design, North Central. I solicited 4 local firms in engineering to look at a section in North Central that the CDBG will fund next year. They're gonna be doing 101st Street to 104th Street, as they do around the city with the new streets and sidewalks in that area. That section is part of a gap in what will be eventually the Riverwalk, where we cannot put, excuse me, a trail on the river, because there's all private properties, and it will have to jump out to 2nd Avenue there, to loop around and then go back out just north of 103rd, 4th Street, to that big grassy expanse that we have where there's no buildings. And before CDBG just goes in there and does sidewalks and paves it, I want to investigate the ability to do some kind of a design that may allow for a trail on there. So I sent out 4 requests. I got 2 back out of that. One was for $6,000 from Verity Engineering, whose chief person there is Lindsay. Well, Verity Engineering is the former city engineer, but Lindsay used to be with Alta Planning, and she has done a lot of our trail work. She did the First Avenue stuff. So they came in at $6,000, and Chase and Labella came in at $7,600, and the other 2 did not respond. But since it's professional services, we are okay, so I'd like to get an approval to authorize them to commence work, so that we have something in line for the future design, if possible, to keep the Riverwalk connecting from end to end of the city. Questions on that?
So will you take this design and it'll be funded through the CDBG? Grants?
Well, so this is a feasibility,
Okay.
and then they'll have to actually, CDBG will actually have to do the design and the implementation. So I've been in
Gotcha.
discussion with them, I told them we're gonna do this,
Okay.
and, because I was just concerned it wouldn't occur otherwise. There's limited CDBG funding,
Yeah, right.
$7,000.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
So there's a resolution in your packet,
Any questions or comments about the Riverwalk design proposal? Study? Okay. Do we have a motion? So,
I'll make a motion.
Josh, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained? And, 1 absent.
Okay. Second item is the Brownfield Opportunity Act, and let me just I don't have enough maps for everybody, but you can look at this briefly, send that one down there, and then, so basically, the Brownfield Opportunity Act is something we started a couple years ago, and this gives This gives additional incentives to people developing within that area. If they're doing a brownfield remediation, it gives them another 5% bump on a tax credit. The actual area is all the stuff in green, and then the catchment area is everything out into the purple. And we started a process with CHA a number of years ago and submitted the application to the state. And the state came back, because of the way we went through it, which wasn't funded by a grant, but was funded directly through us. They said they came up with some new rules on things that they needed to get from us, which is an additional expense, basically. At the same time, we have gotten EPA funding for all of those properties in color to investigate them and come up with remediation plans as well for those sites. Some of the requirements of that grant are also requirements of the Brownfield Opportunity Grant, so they can be paid for by the federal funding that's not matched by anybody. So that's like $60,000 of additional work we need to get done. Roughly $20,000 of it is covered by the other grants, leaving a $40,000 gap to get the rest of this project done. So CHA, who's been doing the work, basically has given us an estimate, which I don't think went out. Did it go out in your packet or not?
So, it's like a separate
It's on there.
Yeah.
CHA? Yeah, okay. So this shows, if you turn to the last page, does it have that was a different one. No, it shows subtotal $90,000, and I'm sorry, $50,000 of it's covered by the EPA grant, and that leaves us with a balance of $40,600. Includes community outreach, which hadn't been done or really needed to be updated. Part of the problem was the community outreach. Some of it included the comprehensive plan, some of it included our staff going out to the South Troy group and the Little Italy group and the Riverside group, but it's been 3 years, so we really need to go back out and do some additional outreach to those groups. So I'd like to get this going so that we can get it completed by this summer, basically. That allows for the tax credit to be eligible for the King Fuel site, anything down there that, as a Sperry building, as that gets developed. So I'm requesting another $40,000 to complete this grant, basically.
Is there a resolution today on that?
There should be, was there no resolution in the packet? Create. Fine. There is one, is there?
Yeah, there is
I've got too many packets.
resolution three of
323.
Yep.
Great.
It's the last couple pages of the packet.
Oh, because it's not, yeah.
Just the right.
Page 5, yeah, I don't have it in my packet. Yes. Dylan had prepared the resolution.
color coded.
I know, tab them
There's
out.
normally a nice table with,
Resolution 323. Okay. And that has the piece, so that's the resolution to engage CHA to do this.
is the timeline, like we've had to move, I guess it's dated the 23rd, but is the timeline like, realistic for this today?
I believe so. I mean, it got tough with the original timeline because we started, like right in COVID, basically, and getting anything done, outreach, everything was difficult. But we were talking about trying to get this thing done through the summer. We want to have all the public meetings done by early June, so we're not doing anything in the summer. And we have a lot of, a lot of it's been started or in the works, so I think it's a pretty good timeline. I'm looking at, to have it done by September is realistic.
Would we get, updates for each task, or just wait until, like, they'll come back to us with the executive summary?
Well, we have stuff already done. I mean, I haven't really updated the board on the work that's been done to date. I was waiting for the finished product, but we can certainly provide updates as we move forward with this. Not always good with updating as we go through the projects, because we got so many other projects going on.
Any questions, comments, discussion? we have a motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Sue, second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Nope. Okay. Some more new business?
No. No, I have no old,
Yeah. Nothing for old business?
nothing that wasn't already, no, that was already spoken of.
Okay. Any further comments, questions, concerns? Motion to adjourn? Josh? Second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. On to, oh, no, I got it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna call to order the Troy CRC Board of Directors meeting. We're gonna start with, approval of the minutes. Then I want approval of the minutes from November 18th, 2022. Any questions or comments? And if not, we have a motion to approve. Second? Sue? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, opposed, one abstention, Becky, and one, absent. Okay, agenda item 2, annual meeting resolutions.
I will hit the highlights on this. Basically, the annual officer election on page 2, same as IEA. The Audit and Finance Committee is a committee of the whole, and the Governance Committee is Albert, Susan, and Stephanie. The staff remain the same. For the IDA, the budget's been adopted. The annual report for the CRC is much easier to get through than the one for the IDA. I mean, it's basically the policies and procedures are in place, the staff are, the board is, and then what, our debt, which would coincide with the audit, and then our, at the very end, basically our vendors, City of Troy for the $100,000, future small cities, which there's $15,000 we gave, the LDC, like the $215,000 loan, RPI with their 3 bonds, and that's actually debt. I'm reading the wrong thing, right? Or no? It's not procurement. It was, I'm trying to figure out why. Grant information or others, so it's grants and other funding. And then procurement at the end on page, and basically our vendors, all the planning, which did First Avenue, Wojcicki, and I believe transactions. Okay, am I missing pages again here? I don't have you guys on. Is that, I don't have the S&D?
It's under 5,000.
They're under 5,000.
CRC is, really low,
Well, yeah.
still.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of, so it's those two, all the planning and Wojcicki basically, and I don't think we get much from Whiteman, Harris Beach, sorry. Wrong term, from Harris Beach for CRC. So that's, I mean, it's easier to get through the Paris report for this one.
Any questions or comments on the Paris report? We have a motion for adoption of the annual meeting resolutions. Josh, second. Stephanie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Absent? Just Jim. On to agenda item 3, the executive director's report.
Executive Director's Report, I guess I should mention at this point that the $115,000 loan secured by the Alamo, the LDC is really not in a position to repay that this year. First up, they still haven't gotten it, and now it's a year later. So I think what the intent here will be that when the Kingsfield property gets sold, that will be how that gets repaid. And that's That's gonna be $1.5 million sale, of which there's only $400,000 left. The LDC's out of its position. The LDC, if you remember, there was, I don't know if you remember or not, but last year there was a going concern issue with the LDC, that they weren't going to have enough money, which is partially why we made that loan. But now with National Grid doing the lease payments to them each year, and this year they're going to sell the Federal Street property and be involved with another transaction. So their financing and their cash reserves comes up a little bit. But I just don't feel this year that the repayment of that $115,000 is a good thing for them to do. That could certainly change by year end. I'm just kind of letting the board know that that may not happen this year. If the CRC starts running out of money for grants and stuff, right now it's $215,000 or so, and it's actually $400,000 including the loan, then we can look at trying to make that repayment. But for now, I request putting that on hold. So I don't know if there's an action item that's necessary. I don't think there's an action item necessary for that, because they haven't sold the property yet. But it's imminent, I hope. Let's see. Great. That's really it for Executive Director's report.
Okay. On to, agenda item 4, financials.
Statement of activity, month of February, we had a deficit of $4,396. There were no significant sources of revenue. The largest expenses were the accounting fees, which were the annual audit payment.
Any questions? Comments? We have a motion to approve the financials. Stephanie, second. And, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Gemma, great. On to new business.
I'm gonna actually jump, well, I guess I'll cover it under new business. The Little Italy neighborhood received funding from Assemblyman McDonald, or not Assembly,
Congressman Tom.
Congressman, was it Assemblyman Tonko and Congressman?
No, there were. Congressman Tonko, Assemblyman McDonald.
And there are a bunch of projects coming together in that area. The rebuilding of that project, the CDBG development on 4th Street, or paving and work there, and CDTA is taking what's called Liberty Park there, that little triangle between Hill Street and 4th and Liberty, and expanding that out, making a mobility hub, which has we'll have car share there, e-bikes, bikes, and everything there, and they're kind of expanding out the area. So there's a whole bunch of great things coming together in that area for Little Italy. One of the things that we needed to do there, that CDTA actually did for us and would like to be reimbursed for, is a traffic study to make sure that all of these pieces fit together. We're closing Hill Street, we're changing the direction from two-way on Liberty Street, and on that one block of Hill Street to one-way. So we need to do a bit of a traffic study, and in order to get it done and get CDTA as well as CDBG out to bid, I wanted to get this done early, and CDTA volunteered to do the work for us up front if we would reimburse them for it. So I have $2,500.50 that I would like to basically pay to CDTA for that work. So it's because I thought the engineering department was going to do it, but it turns out they didn't have the funding. So.
Did you get a copy of the traffic study?
I do have a copy of the traffic study. I can make it available to you. Yes.
Is that what I saw? I think I saw surveyors out there about a month ago, 3 weeks ago.
That was related to it.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, We had CHA do, that was paid for, that was in engineering department.
NMB did that, sir.
Who did?
NMB,
NB, okay,
Nathan.
okay. So, and there's additional work that still needs to get done, but that'll be city-funded work. We're gonna build a new retaining wall in the park as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And then improve the parking on Liberty Street in that block between Hill and Fifth. And have angled parking going up there as well.
You don't want the wall, Albert?
No, it's just, my block is blown up because, they're replacing the gas lines.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So my block is a mess.
It'll be beautiful when it's done.
Yeah. Are they gonna repave the road or just leave patches all over the place?
Well, they need to finish first,
Yeah, so when all this is done,
so.
That's not an answer?
They'll repave it and you'll have one neighbor on your street that didn't hook up their gas, and then they'll tear up the street
Yeah,
again.
they'll live
And
next door.
actually-
And they'll live next door to you, and it'll be great.
so on the Hill Street closure, we're actually coordinating with Department of Public Utilities to make sure that
Like
any
across the
lead
street
pipes
neighbor.
that need to get replaced are done before we
Oh,
go in
okay,
there.
all right.
So, yeah. So, I think I'm not sure if I need
My house
just a
is in,
resolution, or I think I'm just notifying you that I'm paying
Mango.
this fee.
And then the church, and mine is like 3 houses in it, on the church.
And I think, okay, so then I go to
East side.
new business, East Side Seniors. This was a request from the city. The city's allocated $5,000 to the East Side Senior Group to provide senior programming, and the applicants, this is basically a pass-through from the city to the East Side Seniors. The city couldn't make the payment because of the status of the recipient. And I'm not sure at this point now, so I'd like to approve this. We may not end up doing this. The city will give us the funding if we can find a way to transfer this through the East Side Seniors. At the time, I didn't realize that what we have is a Social Security number of the person that runs it, and I'm a little concerned about doing that unless they come up with a nonprofit to be able to
Right.
run it through. So, I guess I'd like a motion to be able to accept and make this pass through if we come up with a reasonable way to do it.
I had a question on, you said the status of the recipient.
Well, the recipient, so it's not an official nonprofit.
Oh, so it's a new startup that doesn't have exemption status yet?
Yes, and I don't even know if they are, we may have to find another entity to push it through to get to them.
Just a group
Probably need a 401, whatever. it's-
got together and,
I guess they've been operating for quite a while. I don't know how they've been providing, are you familiar with them at all, or how they're providing services?
No.
But, so anyways, the city's allocated the money and asked us to do it, and when I said, yes, we can do that, I didn't realize that maybe we can't do it. So, we're looking for a different way to do it.
Can we just wait?
Could I guess, wait?
I mean, it's not like, it sounds like it's an urgent thing.
Yeah, I guess we could, let me look into it and we'll bring it back next month.
But-
Yeah. No resolution today.
Yeah, let me,
table.
yeah, let's table it. Well, let me just, I'll pull it from the agenda and,
That's,
Steve,
Yeah.
can I ask another question on that?
yep.
I think somewhere I saw, the address is in Castleton, New York.
Castleton,
Yeah.
yeah, it's,
So
that's
that's
why,
the actual lady who,
that's the lady who runs it.
Yeah, okay.
Right, and she's been doing it for a while, but yeah,
Yeah,
I
alright,
had that
got it.
same concern.
yeah, okay.
But again, if we're using her social security number, then she's gonna report it as income and we need a 1099, so.
Yeah.
So I'll just let you know that that's out there. And I'll move on to item 2, the NIP grant. So this is an annual allocation made with the city council requesting for $10,000. Last year, they started matching it with their own $10,000 to do small neighborhood improvements across the city. And I think everybody's familiar with this because we've done it so many times. So they have the request in for $10,000, and I'd recommend that we do this again.
Today's the deadline for application.
Is it?
Mhm.
Let's table it till next month.
Is there you mentioned to me earlier this week, there's, like, in the past, people, like, not all this money's been allocated?
Last year, we spent $8,000, so what we've done is we usually give them $8,000, I believe it is, and then $2,000 when it's all done. This year, we're gonna give them $5,000, and then the balance upon completion, because they don't, I mean, I think a lot of it's been COVID-related, group-related, being able to get everybody together to do these projects. But, I mean, as the funding is needed, we'll make it available, so but we'll give them the first $5,000. Danae, did we didn't really get a list of what was done last year?
I can send that around when we get it.
Hours on the bridges, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
The Troy and Bloom,
Yeah,
project downtown.
yeah.
There's a couple war memorials too that get
Yeah.
some money through, yeah.
Last year, several murals were painted.
Yeah,
Did we do Pauling Avenue at one point?
Only the east side has.
yeah, they got a couple
They
planters.
have planters
Yeah.
that, demarcate the neighborhood on the east side, and it says east side
To the
neighborhood.
east side, yeah.
So they're all
Yeah.
nice little neighborhood
Mm-hmm.
projects.
So
We have a-
We should get a report, yeah.
Yeah, we asked for the thing to show what was done, but we got more of like a list of items that were purchased, like the supplies. So I just reached back out to clarify, like, hey, can we get a list of the projects that were done and like by a group, community group?
The
They have to- I think
city
they have to
council
fill out an
approves them, right?
application, yeah.
The clerk should
Yeah.
have
Some-
that.
They should
Yeah, I
have the
think there's a list.
applications, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the-
Asking for the
Be a
applications.
resolution that each time they're funded, right? Or are they,
Yes, there
Yep.
is, and approves them, so there's a resolution.
we will make that, we'll get that, I know.
Any more discussion or questions on the neighborhood improvement program? Do we have a motion to approve? Josh, second? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, abstentions, just one absent. Great. Old business? Nothing? Okay, do we have a motion for adjournment? Josh, second?
I'll second.
I thought everybody would raise their hand for that one.
Aye.
All right.
You want all your papers back tonight?